like all of us, now look at the 2024 election in a whole different light. Sadly, the Supreme Court cake is baked to some degree, but the stakes so immense. Maybe you can speak about that, the jetliner view of things. But then I want to ask you about what can be done
Yeah,
from here. It seems as though the
yeah.
options are all grim.
The options feel very grim. Believe it or not, we've been in bad spots before in this country. And what we really have is a choice between continuing democratic governance and making deep structural reforms, starting with impeaching members of the Supreme Court that have been exposed for taking what in any other world would look a lot like a bribe. And we also know our Supreme Court has been captured. And if we end up talking anything about Project 2025, what we've seen this week is the beginning of that. And in my feeling, we continue to vote democratically. Democrats need to, in the best of times, there's a lot of infighting within Democrats. We don't have that luxury. As Will Rogers said, I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat. We don't have that luxury. We have to be much more strategic. And in my feeling, it's not about two men. It's literally the continuation of democratic governance or potentially 1,000 years of darkness as we descend into autocracy. Trump is telling us what he's going to do. Anybody who watched that debate, Mark, saw Stalin level lies backed up by that strong man, Mussolini performance. And, of course, we had Joe Biden, who's old, and we need to get over that. But he was standing there like much of America, mouth agape at all of those lies. So,
Yeah, I wish that
start
he could have.
there.
I do wish that he could have done something besides just stand there with mouth agape. I mean, it seemed as though
Of course.
some of those lies could have been called out quite easily. But as you look at the options when it comes to Joe Biden, where are you? Your close ranks around him, or do you feel
Yeah.
as you think that there just aren't really any options that are cleaner?
No, I think that if we actually scurried around and made a big change now, that would absolutely doom our democracy. I really do. And how I feel is that Biden brought policy papers to a knife fight, and he can't do that anymore. We are in what I call information world war. That was part of information warfare. That wasn't politics as usual. You literally had convicted felon Stalin level lies on one side, whose chief strategist just went to prison, whose personal lawyer just got disbarred. And so that's what you have on one hand. On the other side, you have a public servant who brought policy papers to a knife fight. And again, like that is something that he can no longer do. And honestly, Mark, to answer your question, 90 minutes. Yeah, it was a perfect storm of awful, as my friend David Pepper just said. However, 3 years he spent doing the labor of democracy. Before Biden came to power, our allies started to begin. We were, thinking that we were part of the new axis of evil. He has assured our allies that's not who we are. And I think it's very important that we look at what he has done. And the next day we saw a different guy. So, but was it easy? No, it was a total gut punch. We all felt it.
I like that you mention it, though, in the terms that you just did, because I think you're exactly right. I think that Biden's head was filled with statistics and a number of things associated with policy. But you're right. That's not the politics of today, especially
No,
against Donald Trump.
no,
It's trying to pick off. I mean, it's a fire hose of lies. So I don't think you can pick them all off, but you
no.
could certainly pick off a couple of the big ones. And then getting out a couple of your accomplishments. But if you only want to go negative, you can do that too. But I think that if they had just reduced that which they filled Joe Biden's head with on that night,
Absolutely.
he might have had a better chance. Or, Heidi, honestly, maybe he's more like that than we think, although the next day he seemed
Yeah.
fairly okay on the stump.
Right. And again, I don't think we're voting for two men. Look at the difference in the administrations. As I just mentioned, a whole litany of convicted felons, a campaign manager who went to prison, two personal lawyers, One went to prison, another's disbarred. It's like, it's pretty obvious what the distinction is. And then you have the very boring labor of democracy. That's not interesting to some people. Some people like those authoritarians. They like that dominance and that fear. But that is not what America is about. I do not want to see, 1930s Germany duplicated. And we are, if anybody wonders, I've said this many times, what you're doing in the rise of, the Nazi party in Germany, you're doing it now. And we still have a chance to peacefully continue democratic governance. Or, as I said, we are marching toward authoritarianism. They're telling us what they're going to do. The Supreme Court, as far as I'm concerned, is literally trying to kill us. They're enabling,
corporate polluters,
corporate polluters, taking away women's health care rights, which has very real repercussions, and putting machine guns back in the hands of a radicalized populace. Like, these are all things that are very dangerous. We know why they're doing it, and it's partially, why I write at my series at Betty Dangerous on American monsters and the 2016 election attack. It's literally because I want people to know the billionaires behind what we're seeing. And one more thing, we're continually focusing on culture wars and fighting amongst each other, not paying attention to the big power grabs. And that weakens us. And I would like Americans, no matter what side of the political fence they're on, who watch your show, to think about uniting in whatever way that looks for you, because us fighting each other is weakening us and allowing foreign enemies to move in on our turf and take advantage of Americans, basically, making it easy for them to do authoritarian capture in America.
Right, it's to infiltrate, essentially. I like that you mentioned the American Monster Series, because I was going to get to it anyway. Spend another 30 seconds or so, or give us a heartbeat or two on that, because I know you put a lot of work into that, and it's really good work.
It's so funny, because it's like I write these things for myself so I still have clarity. So far, I'm up to 14, and it includes people like Mike Flynn, Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump himself, Roy Cohn. You'll see our dear friend Rupert Murdoch in the middle, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. These guys, actually, Alex Jones, professional propagandist, goes on Russian television. I'm sure you probably knew Tucker Carlson back when and wonder what the heck is going on there.
I think I might have met him once. Yeah.
But people who used to know him used to say, hey, this was a really smart guy. What happened? Well, what happened is these guys here bet on authoritarianism, and they're calling it a whole bunch of other things. But literally, these people here know that global warming's real. They're doing everything to obfuscate. They are tied to networks that are trying to grab Earth's resources. They don't care what happens to us. And basically, I used court documents. I did the old, journalistic gumshoeing, where I'm paying attention to indictments and convictions. These guys here all are aligned with autocrats throughout the world. And the scary thing for me, and the thing I want people to be aware of, because we still have a choice in November, is that literally a decade ago, half the world was ruled democratically. Now that has changed to 78% being ruled by autocracies. So we're trending in the wrong direction, and it's because of people like that. And one thing I will say, Roy Cohn right there, who's deceased, he was a mob lawyer who represented all 5 main mafia bosses in New York. He was also Trump's lawyer and mentor. He was also Roger Stone's lawyer and mentor. So we are looking at he also brought Rupert Murdoch into the White House. We're looking at a very long game, and we are at a very dangerous, conclusion to this game. But it's what we do. We still have a choice to say, I don't want that. I want the continuation of boring old democracy.
What do you think happens if Trump wins?
1,000 years of darkness. I mean, it's not going to be like a term, an administration. It's look at what's happening in Orban's Hungary. Look at what Putin did in Russia. We will see a never-ending array of, it'll be Trump, it'll be Kushner, it'll be Ivanka, it'll be It'll be a very similar looking autocracy that you saw in Hungary. And one example for those of your friends who like media, if you're in Hungary and you're under Orban, Orban made media donate all of their properties to the government. So there is no free speech left in Hungary. So, I think
Yes,
that's probably what we compare it to.
it's a soft autocracy. Exactly. I love that you point to Hungary. It's a soft autocracy. This is a great comment. Oh, where did it go? Thomas says, I think this, I did glanced at it. I hope I read it all the way through. America has abandoned well-regulated television and radio and foolishly allowed owners of news to transmit deceitful fictions instead of fact news. This is really something that is so good for you because you've worked in media, you've worked in television media, you've worked for these huge conglomerates, and you've also worked now in independent media. There is some truth to the fact that we've really let that genie out of the bottle. The sense of a public responsibility that media used to have, that's completely lost in America now.
Right. Thank you so much for that comment, Thomas, and for reading it, Mark. The bottom line is billionaire-controlled media and hedge fund-operated media is not going to save democracy. It's going to be the independents who can speak truth to power. That's what we have left. And unfortunately, big business is big media. They bet on fascism. And what's terrible about that is literally fascism is good for no one. If they want your business, they'll come take it. So that's the classic fascist blunder, to think you can control the leader. And that's not how it works. It's not good for anyone, including big business.
The French politics right now seem to be leaning hard. Here it is. Phineas says, isn't France leaning right? Yeah, sadly, France is. It's weird to see the continent and NATO allies going that way, and it's a reality.
We are in a global fight, Mark. It is a global fight. I did a piece couple years ago about Putin's covert war on the West, and literally when people say all roads lead to Putin, it is true. Russia was very effective propaganda, but it's actually a fact. All you have to do is look at the 2018 Republican-led Senate intelligence report to see that they are at war with the West. And you continually have them meddling in countries like France and Italy and wherever they can get a foothold, right now in Georgia, the country of Georgia. So this is a global fight. But I say it's what we do. We've been in bad places before. We've come out of it, but we can't obey in advance, number one, and we can't panic.
I can't wait to talk to you again on this show because I love your first visit. And now that you've got the dance down on joining us, we're going to make you dance again. It's Heidi, I just adore you. Used to work so closely with Heidi, and it was so much fun. And I just think there is some delight in watching all of the ways that you expose these awful people in your American Monsters series, your BettyDangerous.com work. Get her podcast, subscribe, support her. This is the investigative reporter, two-time Emmy award-winning, really, I guess I would just call you a journalist who's, been recognized throughout your entire career for all the great work you do. And I want my audience to recognize it as well now. So check it out. There you are with,
with my bros. Yeah.
With your crew. So find her and all of her work. Radicalize, the Truth Survives podcast is the investigative show about disinformation. As I say, though, BettyDangerous.com is the gateway to everything. You can find it all right there at Betty. And Betty is, for those who are listening and not watching, BETTE. Betty is spelled BETTE, BettyDangerous.com. Heidi, thank you. And I look forward to the next time.
I love you, man.
Love you back. See you. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.